Okay, the international break and World Cup qualifying. England had put five past Latvia. In Riga, it was 3-0 at half time. It's 5-0 on the night. Honestly, the way England are playing now under Thomas Tuchel, there's a lot more freedom in attack. The players look more relaxed, more confident, and the interplay and the combinations are fantastic. If this was a Southgate selected team, it's a bludger of a 1-0 and it's not an overly convincing win. The way England are playing, yes, you've got to look at the strength of opposition, but they handled Serbia in the last international break. They've obviously beaten Albania. These are two sides that regularly qualify for tournaments, and they've beaten them comfortably in qualification so far. And they've got to play them again in the next international break in November, but they've qualified with two games left to play in the group, which is really, really good to see. They haven't conceded yet. They could have had 9 or 10 tonight. It was difficult conditions. The rain, I think, has impacted some of the accuracy a little bit. The intensity, I think, okay, with the substitutions, I don't think the intensity dropped off. I just think the weather impacted it, and sometimes, you're not going to be able to score in every attack or create the perfect attack. But you could see they were dominating possession. They kept up the tempo. They're attacking in the wide areas. They're attacking up the middle. They're getting a lot of crosses in, a lot of positive pass and move. Everything's done in a more positive way. None of this aimless passing across the back for passing's sake. Every pass, first option is to go forward. Second option is to find a player in space who can then go forward. Very few back passes to Jordan Pickford. A much more positive performance than in years past under Gareth Southgate. And I think that's a very noticeable change. Firstly under Lee Carsley and now under Thomas Tuchel. There's a lot more positivity in the performances and the style of play. Now, in saying that, it did take 26 minutes for the first goal, and it ironically comes off a one-pass counter-attack. So Latvia have got the ball, they're going forward, they lose the ball. John Stones looks up into space to Anthony Gordon. That's a 60, 70 yard pass. Anthony Gordon's obviously wants to cut in on his favoured right foot. He does that. The Latvian defence trying to get back. They're not closing him down. He's given time and space to open his body, and that is a brilliant finish from about 25 yards into the bottom left-hand corner of the goal past the keeper. And he's doing this regularly for Newcastle. It would be nice to see Anthony Gordon also sometimes swap flanks for England and go down the right and explore the right-hand side and cause problems on the other side of the field. Now, I think this is Thomas Tuchel saying to Anthony Gordon, I want you to hold the left, cut in on the right, and that's how Thomas Tuchel wants him to play tactically. But it would be nice to see Anthony Gordon sometimes swap flanks, be a bit more of a roving threat up front, to also, in the defence's mind, it might actually free up a bit more space for Harry Kane, who, by the way, I think is playing a lot better under Thomas Tuchel than Gareth Southgate. He's looking more mobile. I think his stint in Germany has paid off for him both physically and mentally. He's looking a lot fresher. He's gained that half a yard of kind of space, it seems. He seems a much happier player. He still scored a lot of goals under Gareth Southgate, but he's looking a lot more happier, and I think his role, he's not necessarily coming as deep. His role's changed a little bit, and he gets 2 goals in the night. Still hasn't equalled Jimmy Greaves' hat-trick record for England. That will come. I have no doubt Harry Kane will equal that record. Now, his 2 goals come right at the end of the first half. At this point, Latvia could probably be happy that they've kept England to 1-0. It is testing conditions. It is raining. And that this is primarily an athletic stadium that's also used for football. You can see that the fans are miles away from the pitch. You've got the athletics track. You only got 3 stands in the stadium. You could argue it's a little bit like the old Whitdean that Brighton used to play in back in the day before the Amex was built. It is not primarily a football stadium, yet the fans kept up a good atmosphere. Both sets of fans kept up a very good, friendly atmosphere. You could see the fans. There was a good atmosphere. It was, considering the conditions, perfect atmosphere, and the fans contributed, I think, to that. Harry Kane's 2 goals. Harry Kane's first goal, again, Latvia trying to play out from the back. They overplay, they lose the ball, and it's a brilliant finish by Harry Kane. So, but the first 2 goals come from counter-attack, which is really positive to see. That wouldn't happen as often under Gareth Southgate. That really wouldn't. That's really positive to see how some of these players over the years have developed with England, and how some of these newer players to the setup are playing now. Like Anthony Gordon, for example, he's really come into his own with the England setup. He needs to add a few more goals to his England performances because for club level at Newcastle, he's been fantastic. The penalty for Harry Kane, this is where Latvia implode a little bit. So 1-0 at half time is a different team talk. England could still concede a sloppy goal and, things could get a little bit hairy. The penalty makes it 3-0. It's a silly hold in the box. With the way VAR works now, the way things are refereed now, it's a silly challenge. It's a stupid challenge. And it means England have won the game at half time. And Harry Kane from the penalty spot, he's pretty ruthless. World Cup quarter-final notwithstanding, Harry Kane's generally pretty good from the penalty spot. That's on the strike of half-time. It's 3-0 and England are comfortable. Second half, they only scored the 2 goals in the second half. Shocking. But the weather conditions weren't great. Let's be honest. These were testing weather conditions. The rain stopped and started. Was heavy at times, eased up. But they were very testing weather conditions. Tomisevs is the replacement right back. His job is obviously to try and shut down Anthony Gordon, who's just having fun on England's left. But he puts it in his own net. Now, this is on 59 minutes. Now, the cross itself, I think, is it the best cross? No. Is it put into a dangerous area? Yes. Does the flight of the ball just completely deceive everyone? Yes. Does the goalkeeper? I don't know what the goalkeeper's doing, but he's not claiming the ball. He's not staying on his line. He's sort of in no man's land. I think that contributes to the own goal. I think Tomisevs obviously just come on the field. His body positioning isn't the best. Initially, when the ball deflects off him, you think he's deflected it behind for a corner. No, he's put it quite bizarrely into his own net. And it's just poor body positioning. But I think the cross, has deceived everyone. The flight of the ball has deceived everyone. And the goalkeeper basically being in no man's land, I think, has contributed to a bit of uncertainty in the Latvian defence. And also the England attack. No one really reads the flight of the ball particularly well. It is a crowded box and it's in the back of the net. And it's 4-0. But all goals count. There were a few flashes from Latvia in attack. They did expose England in behind. Because when England attack, if they do turn the ball over, with the style of play that they're playing, which is high tempo, pass and move, and of course with the weather conditions the way they were, they do leave space in behind. Latvia exposed England, and if that's a better side, which at the World Cup there will be better sides, that's an area where England need to improve on, is when the ball gets turned over. They don't need all 10 players in the opposition half. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next international break, Thomas Tuchel, tinkers with his squad a little bit, brings some other players into the squad, gives them a run out. And when England are attacking, they might hold 2 players back just in their own half just to shut down those potential counter-attacks. Now, Conser's pulled off a very good tackle and Pickford's had a good save, and there's been a couple of other chances. And Tomisevs has had a bit of a rocket as well from distance. So there were opportunities for Latvia, but this is when it's 4-0. And again, a better side might expose England, might put a bit more pressure on England defensively. Ebenezer Eze scores the 5th goal in 86 minutes. Now, obviously Arsenal play differently to Crystal Palace, but even so, and England play differently to Arsenal, but even so, Eze, he's just an attacking threat. He can play down either flank, play down the middle. He's very versatile, can rove around a little bit. And he's 2-footed, but he scored that with his right. He's obviously predominantly right-footed, can score with his left. Very similar to Anthony Gordon's goal. They allow him to open up his body, set himself, take a few touches, get a better angle, and he really wraps his foot around the ball, and that's hit with some pace as well for the 5th goal. Eze has really developed as a player over the last couple of seasons. Crystal Palace's loss is Arsenal's gain. I think I will say that. But Arsenal do play a different style to Palace. Palace is a more counter-attacking team. Arsenal, a bit more possession-based. But Eze's very adaptable. And I think he's going to be, much like Anthony Gordon, I think he's going to have a very long, positive England career ahead of him. Again, Eze, much like Gordon, as they can stay fit and keep playing the way they're playing for club and country, I can't see them missing out on the World Cup. Harry Kane, as long as he stays fit and plays the way he is for England right now, I think he's playing better for England right now than what he was under Gareth Southgate. I think his role up front has changed. He's not coming as deep to try and retrieve the ball because other players are playing in a more positive attacking way, which means Harry Kane doesn't have to waste time and energy coming into his own half deep to pick up the ball on the edge of the box. He can stay on the halfway line at times, which means he's got a bit more energy when England do attack to be more threatening in and around the opposition's half. And I think that's down to Tuchel, Thomas Tuchel, and the tactics employed and the style of play employed. England have qualified with 2 games in hand. Should have been maybe 10. If that was dry conditions and every attack, works out and every cross is on point and every shot's on point, yeah, we could have seen 10 goals scored. Doesn't happen in reality. Not every game is FIFA on the old PlayStation or the Xbox. In saying that, Jared Bowen played well when he came on. Jordan Henderson was more impactful in this game than against Wales. Now whether Jordan Henderson's on the plane to the US, Canada and Mexico next year is debatable. Again, it requires his fitness to hold up, no injuries, and him to have a good solid season with Brentford. There's people questioning why Jordan Henderson, me included, is still in and around the squad. I can see why on his cameo tonight, why having that kind of experienced player to come on in the second half just to calm things down in certain games or to give that experience and passing game to a midfield and energy to a midfield. I mean, Jordan Henderson, he hasn't got the legs anymore, not that he really had pace to begin with, but honestly, his distribution was very, very good on point when he came on. There's a lot of good young players in and around the squad, and there's that smattering of experienced players in there for club and country who I think just calm things down a little bit, add a calming influence on some of these young players who obviously can potentially get their emotions get the better of them. Pickford still hasn't conceded in qualifying, which is getting ridiculous at this point. I think England have now set a record without conceding a goal, which goes back, I think, to the 50s. I think they've also set a record where they've scored in consecutive games as well, or something that goes back to the 50s, like 18 games or something. So England records are tumbling, but again, another really positive performance. Still not the finished article, I don't think, under how Thomas Tuchel wants them to play. I think the big area of concern is when they do turn the ball over, they push too far forward, including the defensive players. You don't want all your players inside the opposition's half. You want one or two just back a little bit to cover off any potential counter-attack and try and slow down any potential counter-attack. And I think if Latvia were a better side, or let's say go back in time 20 years when Marian Parhas was playing for them, England could have had a bit of a trickier night as it was. But again, no goals conceded, 5 goals scored. Pretty good. Going into the next set of international break, the next 2 qualifiers, England have already qualified, but they still want to put in performances like this against Serbia and Albania to round out qualifying, to have a perfect qualification group. That would be fantastic. England haven't done that for a very, very long time. But there we go. From me for now, is all from me. England scoring 5 on the night in testing conditions, and another really positive performance. So thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the game in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.